Question orale, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président, ce gouvernement.
Mr. Speaker, this government is told Canadians rather, that interest rates would stay low for a long time, and as a result, a third of mortgages are variable rate, which means that when interest rates rise, people will be paying more. According to the Bank of Canada, this is going to cause financial difficulty for many families. And yet the government is causing more interest rate hikes with its inflationary deficits. When will the government turn around with its policies which are pushing families to bankruptcy? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Mr. Speaker, people are going through a difficult period worldwide, and Canada is no exception. They are having trouble making ends meet, and that is why we have a plan to help people pay for housing, to reduce student loan charges. We are also going to double the GST credit. In less than an hour, the Conservatives will have the opportunity to vote with this government to support Canadians. I hope they will do the right thing.
Happy Canada Day. Your gas bills, your heating bills, and your grocery bills have just gone up. That's the message from Liberals to 3 Atlantic Canadian provinces who will be hit with the carbon tax increase on July the 1st. These same Atlantic Canadian provinces have 40% of their citizens already living in energy poverty. Yet these Liberals want to triple the carbon tax as we are going into a winter where heating bills are already expected to double. Will the government give relief to Atlantic Canadians, all Canadians, on Canada Day and every day by cancelling the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And you will find that the answer to the question is in the member's question itself. There will be no increase in carbon pricing in Atlantic Canada before July 1st, not before this winter. And in fact, people will start getting the climate incentive payment before the increase in carbon tax in July 1st. No increased cost to Canadians this winter, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
First, the carbon tax hasn't worked. They haven't hit a single solitary emissions reduction target in the 7 provinces where the tax is already imposed. And now they want to impose it on 3 more provinces. Second, Canada ranks 58th out of 63 countries for climate action performance. And third, these so-called rebates do not pay for the full cost of the carbon tax. 60% of Canadians who pay this tax pay more than they get back in rebates, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer. So instead of stating and restating these falsehoods, why won't they give Canadians a break on their heating, eating, and housing bills so that Canadians can afford to live?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, 8 out of 10 Canadians will get more from the climate payment incentive than what it costs. That's a fact. They can debate it and they can go into the alternative views of the world, but Canadians will get 8 out of 10 Canadians will get more. And Mr. Speaker, what I'm interested to know is when will they have a plan to fight climate change? When will they help tackle this issue that is costing Canadians billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker, year after year? That's my question to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the real question is when will they have an environmental plan? Because they haven't hit a single target that they've set for themselves, and that's not our opinion. That is the finding of their own departmental reports. And it was the Parliamentary Budget Officer that this Prime Minister appointed that came to the conclusion that the vast majority of Canadians pay more in the carbon tax than they hope to receive in any rebate. And now a report shows that Canada has come in 58th out of 63 when it comes to climate action, falling behind China and Indonesia. So when will they finally accept the science and admit that they have a tax plan, not an environment plan?
The Honourable Minister.
except the science minister coming from the Conservative Party of Canada. Their Minister of Science did not even believe in the theory of evolution, Mr. Speaker, and they would like us to say that they believe in science. That's very rich. And newsflash for the Conservative Party of Canada, Mr. Speaker, emissions have gone down in 2019 and 2020. That's a fact, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, their entire premise is based on falsehoods. They said the carbon tax would reduce emissions. They've gone up. They said it would be revenue neutral. Canadians pay more in the carbon tax than they get back. And they said that the carbon tax would never go up, and they plan to triple it. And now, just in time for Canada Day, on a day when Canadians are supposed to come together and celebrate all that we have in common, they are going to make the carbon tax apply in 3 new Atlantic Canadian provinces in Newfoundland, PEI, and Nova Scotia. So is this part of some bizarre national unity strategy to bring Canadians together by making sure that Canadians in every region hate the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister.
Unlike the Conservative Party of Canada, Mr. Speaker, Canadians believe that we need to do our fair share when it comes to fighting climate change. They believe that climate change is real, and they believe that we need to be doing something about it. Now, for 10 years, they didn't do anything about it, for sure, and now they're blaming us because of their inaction, Mr. Speaker. That's a bit rich. We are playing catch-up because for 10 years, nothing was done when it comes to fighting climate change in Canada, but we are now have one of the best plans in the world, and our emissions have started going down, and
It's almost like a wave. It starts at this end with the honourable member. Well, yes, the honourable member for Regina Louvain, and it moves over. He does have a beautiful voice, but it's very loud. So I'm going to ask him to tone it down. So we'll go over. Nous allons continuer. L'honorable député de la...
The honourable member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, according to Global News, China meddled in the 2019 federal election by funding at least 11 candidates. This is very concerning. And yet, when the opposition questions the Prime Minister, he goes on the offensive. This morning, at a press briefing, he compared the opposition parties to Donald Trump. Wow. My question is simple. If Chinese interference in our election isn't important, if it doesn't matter that they tried to fund candidates, if there's really nothing to worry about, then why did the Prime Minister take the time to bring it up with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the G20? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Protecting Canadian democracy is something this government takes seriously, and it's a responsibility that we will always act to ensure that our Canadian democracy is protected. And that's why we're taking real action on this. It includes our national security agencies who conduct investigations and use all the tools available to them. We as a government will always ensure those agencies have the resources that they need, and we will pursue all options that are available to protect Canadian democracy, Mr. Speaker.
Député de la Prairie.
The honourable member. No one is questioning the integrity of the election. That's not the issue. The issue is that there is a foreign power trying to interfere in our democracy, and the Prime Minister is not giving accurate information about it. He can't help it. He's incapable of being transparent. Ultimately, we don't care if the candidates targeted by China are Liberals, Conservatives, Bloc, or NDP. We just want to know who and what China is doing in order to prevent it from interfering in our democracy in the future. What does the Prime Minister not understand about this?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the honourable member's comments that this is an issue that impacts all members of this House, not just the Liberal Party, but all members of this House. And that's why we established an independent panel which confirmed that the 2019 election was free and fair. But we have our eyes wide open, Mr. Speaker. We passed laws to modernize the Elections Act, to close the gaps on foreign funding. The intelligence community and law enforcement investigate all allegations. Mr. Speaker, we will always take action to protect Canadian democracy.
Le député de Rosemont-la-Petite.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Oh, my microphone wasn't on. Mr. Speaker, it just doesn't stop. The big grocery chains, like Metro and Loblaws, are continuing to line their pockets at the expense of struggling families. They're continuing to take advantage of a crisis to rake in obscene levels of profits. Loblaws brought in 29% higher profits. Meanwhile, people are having to skip meals and there are overflowing lines at food banks. Yet the Liberals refuse to stand up to the big grocery stores and make them control their greed. When will the Liberals make these wealthy companies pay the public what they owe and help people? The Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker, Canada is not the only country facing high food prices. We know that this is a problem throughout the world, but the Minister of Industry has asked our Competition Commissioner to ensure that large grocery chains don't overly raise prices. We are taking this very seriously. We will continue to follow the file. We need a food system that works well for Canadians.
Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, it's worse than that. 500 Alberta workers who need to feed their families in Alberta are being laid off, all while their employer, Loblaws, rake in excess profits to the tune of $1 million a day, Mr. Speaker. These layoffs are intimidation tactics designed to scare workers. It's clear the Liberals are standing with big corporations like Loblaws, while New Democrats, Mr. Speaker, stand with workers. When will this government stop covering for Loblaws and start protecting workers' paychecks?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, we know that Canadians are concerned about how much they're paying for gas and groceries, and earlier this year, the Minister of Industry, Science and Innovation contacted the Competition Bureau to make sure that it was using all of its tools to detect and deter unlawful behaviors in the food sector. Following up to prevent businesses from taking advantage of high prices and profiting off of Canadians, we've asked the Bureau to immediately look into these matters. We will continue working to make life more affordable for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Excellent.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Liberals continue to throw fuel on the inflationary fire and caused home heating costs to go up. Instead of addressing the real issue, Liberals are spending $250 million to make Canadians buy heat pumps they can't even use this winter season. Today we learned that this government will impose its crippling carbon tax on all Atlantic provinces, forcing families to take a heating pump handout instead of letting Canadians choose what works best for their own homes. Why won't this Liberal government do the right thing, get out of the way, and axe a carbon tax on home heating?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we've said many times in this House, addressing climate change is an existential threat to the future of the human race and certainly is of critical importance to our children and our grandchildren. But we must do so in a manner that addresses the affordability issues and that actually has a plan for creating a prosperous future in a lower carbon environment. We have put into place a number of measures, not simply the $250 million we announced with respect to heat pumps, which is very important, but the Green Buildings Program and a whole range of other things that are ensuring that Canadians can make the transition in an affordable way. Climate change is real. We need to fight it with thoughtful and effective plans.
Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Well, they failed on the climate and the economy. And what the minister fails to acknowledge is the government has failed to hit a single climate target, failed to lower emissions, failed to deliver a real plan, and ranked 58 out of 63 on their failed carbon scheme. Their only answer is a tax plan. Canadians are out of money, and this out-of-touch government thinks heating pumps are going to save them. Contrary to what the finance minister wants us to believe, the carbon tax isn't helping anyone, and neither is cancelling Disney Plus subscriptions. So again, why won't the Liberal government get out of the way and axe a carbon tax on home heating?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, I think it'd be important to remember that less than 2 years ago, the Conservative Party voted that climate change wasn't even real. Then last year, the leadership of the Conservative Party decided that it indeed was real, and that brought forward a campaign platform that it had at least a weak climate plan, the centerpiece of which was putting in place a price on pollution. All of the Conservative members in this House were elected on that platform. And now, once again, they don't talk about climate change, and they attack the idea of of pricing pollution. I would say, how can you believe anything these folks say?
The Honourable Member for Haldimand, Norfolk.
The snow is here, and And the calls are coming in across the country from families who are wearing their winter coats inside their homes just to keep warm and save money on heating costs. The temperatures are dropping across the country and home energy bills are rising. Many Canadians are faced with the horrible choice of having to cut back meals and turn down their heat in their homes just to get through this winter. Will the Liberal government do the right thing and cancel the carbon tax on home heating?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Speaker, my honourable colleague talks about some of the difficult choices that Canadians have to face. And on this side of the House, we understand that. That's why we've been there continuously for the last 7 years to help Canadians in need. Now, my honourable colleague in her caucus has a chance today to support the fall economic statement that would help Canadian families with the enhanced Canada Worker Benefit that's going to come 4 times a year as opposed to once a year. Will help students with eliminating permanently the interest on the federal portion of their student loans. Mr. Speaker, if they really do care about Canadians, I hope they demonstrate it today by voting in favour of initiatives that will support them.
Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
There are at least 1 million Canadians that will go without heating their homes this winter. The Liberals don't have an environmental plan. They have a tax plan. They have not met one single environmental target. The Liberals' irresponsible and reckless spending is the cause of this inflationary nightmare. And now they plan to tax their way out of this mess on the backs of Canadians. The people who are least able to afford it will be punished by this tax. Will the Liberals finally admit that they were wrong and cancel this cruel inflationary carbon tax on heating?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister.
What's cruel, Mr. Speaker? What's cruel is talking about the spending that we did in the pandemic that supported millions of Canadians. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit helped millions of Canadians. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy helped millions of Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we were there for Canadians in their time of need, and we continue to be there. What we haven't seen is the Conservative Party of Canada and their members of Parliament be there to support Canadians. But I hope that they decide today to do the right thing, to be there to help the most vulnerable and support the fall economic statement.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, this holiday season is looking melancholy for Canadians. With food prices reaching record highs, tables are likely to be bare. With gas prices at record highs, some families will have to give up on visiting their loved ones. Add to that the cost of heating, which is skyrocketing. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Will this government follow our recommendation and remove the carbon tax from residential heating bills in this country? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Mr. Speaker, we have a strong plan to meet the needs of Canadians exactly when they need it. In less than an hour, the Conservatives can vote with us to cancel interest on student loans, double the GST credit, and also reduce taxes for SMEs. Mr. Speaker, they can help Canadians buy their first home. But I'm guessing that they're going to vote against that. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. My colleagues should stop playing petty politics and instead show some compassion, Mr. Speaker. We want action now, not costly solutions that will take months. I'm repeating the demand that our leader and all my Conservative colleagues have been making. Will this government give Canadians a break by removing the carbon tax from their home heating bills? It's so simple and clear. The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, this weekend in Edmonton, Mike and Laurie approached me at the All Is Bright Festival to thank our government for having cut childcare costs in half, because that is helping them pay their bills. Mr. Speaker, Brad asked when he will be getting his $500 to help with his housing. The answer is the check will be sent out because we did our homework. If Conservatives want to show some compassion, they can vote with us today. The Honourable Member for Avignon, Amitis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of the Environment owes us a great many answers on Canada's role at COP27. He fought hard to prevent the inclusion in the final statement of a line about the importance of reducing our use of all fossil fuels. Mr. Speaker, the minister has changed so much since he used to be with Greenpeace, but surely he hasn't changed so much that he would deny that there is no solution to climate change if we don't reduce our oil and gas consumption. So why did he fight to prevent the countries at COP from recognizing that clear fact? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to remind my honourable colleague that Canada's work has been congratulated by groups like the Canada Climate Action Network, which said that we were one of the first countries to move forward, and that the president of the International Energy Agency said that Canada is a leader in the fight against methane pollution. The Bloc Québécois is just trying to create problems, whereas the Canada Climate Action Network, well, we can trust them. The Honourable Member for Avignon-Amicis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, Canada's performance at COP27 is a step back on three fronts. First of all, the Prime Minister wasn't even there. Secondly, Canada invited oil companies to take part. And in third place, the Minister prevented COP27 from talking about the importance of reducing our oil and gas consumption. What grade would our climate champion have given once upon a time to our government behaving like that? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, peut-être que la...
Mr. Speaker, perhaps next time the Bloc Québécois should have sent my honourable colleague to the meeting, because she would have heard from my own lips the fact that in front of media from throughout the globe, we supported the UK's proposal for a text to include a requirement for the elimination of fossil fuel emissions that are not sequestered by 2030. And that's a commitment we already have in Canada. And that's something that we talked about with partners at COP27. The Honourable Member for Avignon-Amicis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, Canada's grade at COP27 is a big zero. The next step is COP15 on biodiversity. But while the minister was in Egypt, do you know what was going on in Newfoundland? 5 oil companies got the green light to carry out exploration in a protected marine area. Canada doesn't even allow fishing in these areas in order to protect biodiversity, but it's allowing companies to destroy the seabed to find oil. So what's Canada's credibility to talk about biodiversity at COP15? Perhaps that summit is already also condemned to failure. The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague should know that the organization that authorized that exploratory drilling is an independent organization, arm's length from the federal government. Independence seems to be a term, in my opinion, that the Bloc Québécois should like. It was not the federal government, but that other agency that authorized these measures.
Of Bay Central, Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, I spoke with Chris in Grand Falls, Windsor, just this morning. He explained how the $5,000 that was announced yesterday would only be a drop in the bucket to help convert his elderly parents from burning oil to heating their home with a heat pump. His parents struggled last winter, and now their oil bill is nearly doubled, and that's without carbon tax. In the new year, carbon tax will add another 20% to their home heating bill. Will this Liberal government stop forcing carbon tax down the throats of Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, these are challenging times for Canadians, and we want to help. The price of home heating oil has certainly increased over the past year, and we want to make sure that people aren't forced to choose between heating their home and putting food on the table. That's why yesterday the Nova Scotia Regional Minister announced a program that will give up to $5,000 to low and middle income families to help with the cost of replacing their furnace with new and more efficient heat pumps. Transitioning away from heating oil will save families thousands of dollars on their heating bills, Mr. Speaker, reduce pollution, create new jobs across the country. And today, Mr. Speaker, in Nova Scotia, the carbon price rebate was announced will more than compensate for any increases in home heating oil and fuel for cars.
Honourable Member for Coast of Bay Central, Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, that member should have better sense. He knows that program is garbage. The carbon tax opposite continues to gloat about the need to tax Atlantic Canadians. But the evidence is in. Carbon tax isn't working. We rank 58 out of 64 countries in fighting climate change. Canada's emissions are higher now than ever. Carbon tax just fuels inflation. When will this Liberal government stop forcing their failed carbon tax down the throats of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, certainly affordability is extremely important, and we have taken significant steps to address affordability issues, including the investment of $250 million for heat pumps yesterday. It's also the case that no matter how much the Conservatives try to mislead this House, 8 out of Canadian families actually get more money back than they pay with respect to the price on pollution, and certainly in Newfoundland and Labrador it will mean money in the pockets of folks there. I would also say, as I said before, it bears stating that every member of that side of the House campaigned on putting in place a price on pollution in the last election. What do you say to your constituents? My goodness.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Nova Scotia surpassed the Liberal federal government's 2030 emission targets already and will reach net zero by 2050 without a carbon tax, but these Liberals today are imposing one, and that carbon tax is going to add $360 to a tank of home heating oil when 40% of Atlantic Canadians are living in energy poverty. Liberals seem more focused on ineffective taxes than they are on actual results. So when will this Liberal government stop forcing Canadians to have the failed carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe the member opposite should listen to the Leader of the Opposition, who recognized earlier that this will not take into effect before July of next year. Now, I don't know about you, Mr. Speaker, but in July, I don't tend to heat my home very much. They would like Canadians to continue to be dependent.
The Honourable Minister from the beginning so we can all hear the answer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Leader of the Opposition said earlier, during this question period, this will not take into effect before July of next year, Mr. Speaker. And in the meantime, we are helping tens of thousands of Canadians to get rid of their home heating oil, which is more expensive, more polluting, and less efficient. So they would like to condemn those Canadians to continue being dependent on systems that will cost them more and more over time, as opposed to a system that will save them thousands of dollars every year, Mr. Speaker. That's the unfortunate truth.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
So these Liberals are proud that in 2023 they're going to add $360 to a tank of home heating oil. And then the 2015 election, this Prime Minister said the provinces that do the hard work of reducing carbon emissions will not have the carbon tax imposed. Yet, Nova Scotia has already surpassed the 2030 carbon reduction targets of this Liberal government. So I'll ask again, when will these Liberals live up to their campaign promise and stop forcing their failed carbon tax on Nova Scotians?
The Honourable Minister for Official Languages.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, what we are proud of is that we do have a plan to fight climate. With respect to the comments that have been made on the other side, Mr. Speaker, it's absolutely unbelievable that they are still denying that climate change is real. When we look at Atlantic Canada, and my colleague who asked this question, in his province of Nova Scotia, we have seen the devastation firsthand. We realize that we have to tackle this, and we have to tackle it immediately. Again, I asked my colleague, why is it that they are against focusing on really fighting climate? Because it is an emergency that we have to deal with right now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Environment is back from COP27 empty-handed. He spent his time defending the interests of big oil companies, and today he had a chance to make carbon pricing fairer and ensure that big polluters really pay what they owe. But again, he failed Canadians. So why is it so hard for this minister to stand up to big polluters?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for her question. I would quote the words of the Canadian Climate Action Network, who said that on the issue of loss and damage, which was one of the victories of the COP27 conference, Canada was a first mover, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, first mover amongst rich countries to make this thing happen. We fought for this. We fought for stronger language in the text on eliminating the use of coal all around the world, Mr. Speaker, including obviously in Canada, and we fought for stronger text on the elimination of fossil fuel subsidies. Thank you.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, last week Manitoba's Conservative government announced a plan to privatize healthcare services in our province. Hospitals in Winnipeg are overflowing after years of cuts, and what is their answer? Moving towards a system where the size of your wallet determines the quality of your care. Public administration is one of the 5 principles of the Canada Health Act, and it must be defended. Will the Liberals stand up and stop this attempt to dismantle our public health care system piece by piece?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate very much. I think we all do the question posed by the member. We're all very mindful of the challenges our public health care system is going through now, with health workers being tired, leaving in large numbers, sometimes thinking about their future, nurses in particular. That's why we want to maintain and to support our public health system, and that's why exactly we need to do that in collaboration and in support to provinces and territories.
Member for Kings Hants.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend, myself and other colleagues in this House had the opportunity to participate in the Halifax International Security Forum. It's a forum that brings together political, military, and industrial leaders from around the world to talk about today's security challenges. I remember being a part of the forum last year when the Russian buildup in Ukraine we were trying to contemplate whether or not this was just a provocation. A year later, we know indeed that's not the case. The terrible illegal invasion that we've seen and the challenges it has created. We know the importance of Canada's relationship with NATO, and I asked the Minister if she can provide an update to this House on an announcement she made in Nova Scotia that matters to Canada and NATO's relationship in providing security. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada stands firmly on the side of democracy and the rule of law with our allies. That is why we will continue offering unwavering support to Ukraine.
Hear, hear.
This weekend, Canada announced that Halifax would be the location for the NATO Defence Innovation Accelerator, Diana, which will bring together innovators, tech companies, and researchers to solve critical security challenges. As we face new threats and pressures, this is exactly the type of leadership that Canada will continue to offer.
Member for Thornhill.
I don't feel safe in Canada. That's the message from Iranian Canadians, and it's being ignored by these Liberals. Canada's spy agency says that it's investigating multiple death threats on Canadians who stand with the tens of thousands protesting the brutal regime who kills its own people in Iran. Death threats. They are pleading for protection from this government. So when do they go from the platitudes of monitoring the situation to actually protecting our own citizens here in Canada?
That's right. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and we will always stand with Iranian Canadians and with Iran as these protests are going on, and that's why we have taken serious action to ensure that the entities that must be treated severely are being treated severely, and that we will always stand with Iranian Canadians in standing up to the actions of the Iranian government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, Global News reported that last January, the Prime Minister was briefed by CSIS about a vast campaign of interference by Beijing in the 2019 election. After 2 weeks of silence, suddenly and narrowly, the Prime Minister claims that he was not briefed about candidates. But that, of course, does not address the broader question about whether the Prime Minister was briefed about Beijing's interference. So was the Prime Minister briefed, yes or no?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will remind this House that the purpose of foreign interference is to sow chaos and throw our democratic institutions into disarray. That's why we're taking action to combat attempted foreign interference, Mr. Speaker, beginning with our national security agencies, who conduct investigations and use all the tools at their disposal. It also includes significant work to shore up Canada's institutions and critical infrastructure, like Bill C-26, to bolster cybersecurity and give new tools to the RCMP. I invite all members of this House to support the government in supporting Bill C-26.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, my question was about what the Prime Minister may have learned in January. Non-answers like that and incomplete information from the Prime Minister after 2 weeks of silence hardly instill confidence that the Prime Minister is being open and transparent with Canadians. So again, with respect to January, was the Prime Minister briefed? Did he receive intelligence memos? What does he know about Beijing's interference?
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, and I will repeat again that safeguarding our Canadian democracy is an issue that we will always take seriously, Mr. Speaker, because it poses a threat to the health of our very democracy. That's why we have listened to the independent panel, which confirmed that the 2019 election was free and fair. That's why we passed laws to modernize the Elections Act, Mr. Speaker. We will always stand up and protect our democracy because it's a responsibility that we take seriously, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, it's not by not answering the question that Canadians are going to feel that they have trust in their elections. We're asking a very simple question. For 2 weeks now, we've been asking the same question to the government. Did the Prime Minister get briefed on foreign interference from the Chinese Communist regime in the elections in 2019? We've been asking this very simple question. He said that he wasn't briefed on the funding of 11 candidates. Was he briefed on this foreign interference from Beijing in the election?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I will repeat what I have been saying in this House numerous times, that we need to take a step back and remember what the purpose of foreign interference is. It is to create chaos in this country. We will stand up for our democracy. We will always ensure that our democratic institutions are protected. That includes, Mr. Speaker, providing resources to our security agencies, to the RCMP, to ensure they have the tools to investigate when they need to. We are trusting that we will always stand up for Canadian democracy, Mr. Speaker, and I invite all members of this House to join us.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has just returned from the La Francophonie Summit in Tunisia. And while he was there, he repeated, hand on heart, the importance of promoting and protecting the French language. But it's the same thing as with the environment. At COP27, Canada says one thing outside of the country and then it does something different in reality. Has the Liberal Prime Minister explained to his allies in La Francophonie why his Bill C-13 will continue to anglicize Quebec, the only Francophone nation in North America? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, Mr. Speaker, we are the first government to recognize the decline of French around the country, including in Quebec, and that's why we are moving forward with an ambitious bill, a bill with teeth, to ensure that we can do our fair share to contribute to reversing the decline of French. Mr. Speaker, for a few weeks now, the Bloc and the Conservatives have been playing political games at committee, and I don't understand why they don't want to move forward with a bill that is going to make a real difference in the lives of Canadians. I would like to remind the member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier that just because he's not looking at me, that doesn't mean that I can't see him yelling in the House. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the countries represented in La Francophonie will do everything except follow Canada's example when it comes to promoting the French language. Because if they were to imitate Canada, they would be tabling bills like C-13, which allow a slippery slope towards English in workplaces. They would ban 80% of Francophone African students, and they would find it normal that Francophones in the public service feel uneasy about working in their own language or uncomfortable working in their own language. Do the Liberals realize that if other countries did like they did, La Francophonie would be weaker around the world? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what we need is partners from the opposition benches to help us move this bill forward, a bill that's going to make a real difference in the lives of Canadians. But what are we seeing right now, Mr. Speaker? Well, once again, political games that the Bloc Québécois and the Conservatives are playing. I don't understand why, Mr. Speaker, they don't want to move forward with this bill. It's a bill that's going to give an opportunity to Francophones outside of Quebec to work in French, in federally regulated businesses, and also ensure that there's a strong Francophone presence outside of Quebec. Mr. Speaker, I really don't understand.
Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
92%, Mr. Speaker. Gang-related homicides are up 92% since 2015. Let that sink in. 124,000. 124,000 more violent crimes this past year than in 2015. When will this Liberal government learn their hug-a-thug approach to crime in this country is literally costing Canadians their lives? But if you listen to them, everything's fine. Will they abandon this soft-on-crime approach?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
And the timing of that question couldn't be better, because this afternoon we are starting clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-22, which will be transformational legislation when it comes to gun control in this country, Mr. Speaker. But that's not all we're doing, Mr. Speaker. We're also ensuring that communities have the resources that they need to support young people from starting involvement with gangs. We've put $1 billion into the border to make sure that we are bolstering our border to prevent guns from being struggled. We know that we need a multifaceted approach, Mr. Speaker, and that's exactly what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Mayor of Laval has told me that most of the crimes committed in his city are linked to illegal firearms and to organized crime. He says that we need better control at the borders to stop the smuggling of illegal weapons. And in the Prime Minister's imaginary world, the solution is to eliminate weapons that are used by hunters and to give criminals lighter crimes. When will he start prioritizing the safety of Canadians instead of prioritizing criminals? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in the history of Canada, we have eliminated a number of mandatory minimums. Mr. Speaker, that means that we are turning the page after the failure of the Conservative Party and their tough-on-crime policies. Mr. Speaker, as my colleague has said, we are going to move forward with the clause-by-clause study today for Bill C-21, which will fight firearms and handguns and assault weapons in Canada, Mr. Speaker, and we need to devote resources in that direction to continue to fight organized crime in Canada. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Well, it's quite the opposite, Mr. Speaker. The failure is from the Liberals. StatsCan has just published results that indicate that murders have been up over the last 3 years. 40% of homicide victims are attributed to the use of weapons and street gangs, and street gangs have free rein because they know that the Liberal government is taking away mandatory minimum sentences. They know that they have free rein to do what they want. When is the Prime Minister going to get serious and stop misleading Canadians and make sure that Canada's streets are safe? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the misleading statements come from the other side of the House. After years of Conservative government where there were cuts to border services, cuts to police services, and that cuts to their means to fight smuggling and gangs, we have to undo what the Conservatives have done. We are investing in our borders. We're investing in anti-gang programs. We're increasing maximum crimes for gun smuggling, Mr. Speaker, and that's the right direction. We are going to make Canada safer. The Honourable Member for Lac St. Louis. Mr. Speaker, Canada's representatives at the 27th United Nations Conference on Climate Change have worked extremely hard to find agreements with other countries around the world to work towards an agreement. Yesterday, we heard the Conservatives mislead this House on carbon pricing at the international level. Can the Minister of Environment and Climate Change please correct the facts? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And misleading statements from the Conservatives will come and go in this House, but when it comes to carbon pricing, the international community agrees. Chile, the European Commission, Indonesia, Colombia, Mexico, New Zealand, South Africa, and South Korea, and the fourth and fifth biggest economies of the world, Germany and the United Kingdom, have all joined us when it comes to putting a price on carbon, Mr. Speaker.
For Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals break everything that they touch. In 2015, there were 15 LNG projects proposed for Canada. 0 have been built. Energy East and Keystone XL could have provided paychecks for Canadians rather than dollars for dictators. Neither project was built. In 2015, they inherited a balanced budget, only to spend their way to an inflationary crisis not seen in decades. Mr. Speaker, when will the Liberals quit breaking everything that they touch and instead let Canadians have back control of their lives?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've said a number of times in this House, it's extremely important that we are moving forward in a way that will build strong economy in a lower carbon universe, ensuring that there are good jobs and economic opportunities for our children. It's also important that we are ensuring that good projects actually can move ahead. We have moved forward to reform the environmental assessment process after the Conservatives changed it significantly and created chaos with respect to actually moving through that project. It's also important, I would say, as I said before in this House, that we are addressing climate change, that we are doing so in a manner that is going to promote economic opportunity and prosperity going forward, and that is exactly what we are doing.
Member for Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is broken. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Small business insolvencies are up. Mortgage renewals will cost on average $7,000 more per year. The government could help by cutting carbon and home heating taxes. Liberals claim to have an environmental plan. That's broke. In fact, Canada was ranked 58th this week in the Climate Change Performance Index, behind Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Iran. Will this Liberal government stop making it hard for Canadians and allow them to take back control of their lives?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, more alternative facts on climate change today in this House. Emissions have gone down in 2019 and in 2020, Mr. Speaker. Let me talk about what the rebate payments that we announced this morning. A family of 4 in Nova Scotia will get 4 times a year, $248. In Prince Edward Island, $240. In Newfoundland and Labrador, $328. They will get that 4 times a year, Mr. Speaker. We're there to have Canadians back and fight climate change.
The Honourable Member for Battlefords, Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, this NDP Liberal coalition is breaking records. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Food prices are rising at the fastest pace in 40 years, and we are seeing the highest usage of food banks on record. Canadians want to take back control of their lives, but this NDP Liberal government keeps fueling the cost of living crisis. Will this Prime Minister quit making it harder for Canadians who just want to put food on the table?
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives have a golden opportunity today, in minutes from now, to do the right thing and support Canadians, to help first-time home buyers, to make sure that students don't have any more interest on their student loans, to make sure that we reduce taxes on small business. Mr. Speaker, are they going to break the hearts of Canadians or do the right thing and support them? The choice is theirs. We will always stand on the side of Canadians, on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, we all know community organizations and nonprofits were hit hard by the pandemic, with many charitable organizations stepping up to help their communities despite the financial pressures of their own that they experienced. That's why our government announced in Budget 2021 that we would help them help Canadians in need. Could the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development update this House on the Community Services Recovery Fund and how our government is supporting the charitable sector from coast to coast to coast to get back on their feet as we move past the pandemic?
Minister of Families.
Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for Whitby for this important question. Today, Mr. Speaker, I was pleased to announce the launch of the Community Support Recovery Fund, a $400 million
Interrupt. There's some shouting that's starting from way over at the other end. We finally got this side quieted down, and now it's starting from down there. I'm going to ask everyone just to quiet down. And on that side, way in the back. So I'm going to ask everybody to take a deep breath, and let's finish off on a high note. The Honourable Minister from the top, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank my honourable colleague from Whitby for his important question. Today, I was really pleased to announce the $400 million Community Services Recovery Fund for the charitable and not-for-profit sector here in Canada. We are going to be working with national funders, the Red Cross, Community Foundations of Canada, and the United Way to deliver this for those folks and organizations that are on the front lines of delivering the most important services right across this country. I encourage all members to let organizations in their community know that they can...
Member for Vancouver East.
Today is National Housing Day. 1 in 5 Canadians cannot afford a safe place to call home. The Liberals are completely out of touch. They are building homes families cannot afford and have done little to end homelessness. The cost of rent has soared all over the country. The average one-bedroom in Toronto is now over $2,500, in Vancouver, $2,600. The Liberals opened the door for housing profiteering, displacing seniors, people with disabilities, and low-income renters. Why are the Liberals treating housing like a stock market and instead of a necessity?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for this question. And we both share the same concern, and that is that we need to make sure that all Canadians have access to affordable housing across the country. And that's exactly what the first and only national housing strategy in Canada has as a goal, and we will continue to work to make sure that all Canadians have access to affordable housing.
Member for Esquimalt, Saanich Sooke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 Saskatchewan First Nation sisters have served nearly 30 years of a sentence resulting from a wrongful conviction. Tomorrow, the Kwazan sisters face a bail hearing where Saskatchewan appears to be using every trick in the book to keep them in custody. Nearly 50,000 Canadians have signed a petition calling for their release. What is the Minister of Justice doing on this case, and how much longer will Canadians have to wait for the Wrongful Convictions Commission we need to bring an end to these injustices?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member for his question. I know we share a passion for justice in criminal matters. Mr. Speaker, I can't comment on an active case of a wrongful convictions file because of the potential role that the Department of Justice and my office and even myself might have to play down the road. What I can say, Mr. Speaker, is that the creation of a Miscarriage of Justice Commission or a Wrongful Convictions Commission is in my mandate letter. I have received a report from former Justices Harry Laforme and Juanita Westmoreland-Traoré on the potential architecture for such a commission. And Mr. Speaker, I can assure the honourable member and I can assure this House that I'm working hard to make sure that that Miscarriage of Justice Commission sees the light of day very soon.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for question period today. C'est tout le temps que nous avons. Member for Edmonton Griesbach is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, if you see it, I believe you will find unanimous consent for the following motion. That, given that international sporting governing bodies have a moral obligation to support players and fans in highlighting the fight for equality against homophobia, transphobia, and all forms of discrimination in sport, the House condemn the decision of FIFA to threaten to penalize players and teams who wear One Love armbands at the World Cup in Qatar.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay.